My mother-in-law said there wasn't room for me in the vacation photos. My husband made sure there wasn't room for her in the next trip. It started 3 years ago at our family beach week. I'd been married to Elliot for 2 years by then, still stupidly hopeful that his mother would eventually accept me. She'd hated me since the engagement. I wasn't from the right family. I hadn't gone to the right schools. My parents owned a dry cleaning business instead of a law firm. That first morning in Hilton Head, I came downstairs in my sundress, ready for the group photo his sister Vivian was organizing. 14 family members lined up on the wraparound porch overlooking the ocean. I moved to stand beside my husband. "Actually," his mother said, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "we're doing immediate family only for this one." I looked at Elliot. He squeezed my hand but said nothing. I stepped back and watched from behind the photographer as they captured 3 generations of Prescotts in matching linen. That photo hung in his parents' foyer for the next 18 months. Every holiday dinner, I'd walk past it, a visual reminder that I didn't belong. Things escalated slowly after that. She'd book restaurant reservations for family dinners and forget to include me in the headcount. She'd plan spa days with Vivian and his cousins, then act surprised when I mentioned feeling excluded. "Oh, I just assumed you'd be working. I was a veterinarian. I had weekends off." She knew this. Elliot always defended her with the same tired excuse. "That's just how she is. She doesn't mean anything by it." But she did mean something. Every slight was calculated, every exclusion deliberate. The breaking point came at Christmas. His mother hosted a gift exchange. She handed out beautifully wrapped presents to everyone in the room. When she reached me, she smiled tightly. "I didn't know you'd be joining us this year." I must have miscounted. 23 people watched me sit empty-handed. That night, I told Elliot everything. Every snub, every cruelty, every moment I'd swallowed my hurt to keep the peace. I showed him screenshots of group texts I'd been excluded from. I documented 3 years of deliberate rejection. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said something I'll never forget. "I'm so sorry. I should have seen this. I should have protected you." The next morning, he called his mother and told her she wasn't welcome at our home until she apologized. She laughed and told him he'd come crawling back within a week. He hung up. We haven't spoken to her since. When summer rolled around, we planned our own trip. 2 weeks in Portugal with my parents and my brother's family. We rented a villa overlooking the coast. We ate fresh seafood every night. We took hundreds of photos. I was in every single one. Elliot posted the album on social media. His mother saw it immediately. She called 17 times in 1 hour. He didn't answer. A month later, his father reached out. His parents were divorcing. Apparently, watching Elliot choose me had cracked something open. His father admitted he'd spent 30 years watching his wife exclude people, control relationships, and manipulate situations. He was done. Last week, Elliot got a letter from his mother's lawyer. She's contesting the divorce settlement and claiming emotional distress. She's also suing us for alienation of affection, whatever that means. But here's the part that makes my stomach drop. The lawyer included a document we'd never seen before. A trust fund in Elliot's name worth $2.3 million created by his late grandmother. His mother has been the trustee since he was 18. According to the paperwork, the account was emptied 6 months ago. Elliot stared at the bank statement for 20 minutes without speaking. I watched his face cycle through confusion, then disbelief, then something cold I'd never seen before. The trust had been established when his grandmother died in 2015. She'd left specific instructions that the money was for Elliot's future, education, a home, children. His mother was supposed to transfer control to him on his 30th birthday. He'd turned 30 14 months ago. "She never told me," he said finally. His voice was flat, empty. I had no idea this existed. I pulled up the transaction history. The account had held steady at around $2.4 million until last March. Then withdrawals started. Small at first. $15,000 here, $22,000 there. Then larger chunks. $180,000 in June, $340,000 in August. The final withdrawal of $890,000 happened on October 3rd, 6 weeks after Elliot told his mother she wasn't welcome in our home anymore. The next morning, we met with a lawyer. Bryce Thornton had handled my parents' estate planning and came highly recommended. He reviewed the trust documents with the kind of careful attention that made me understand why he charged $475 an hour. "This is theft," he said simply. "Your mother was a fiduciary. She had a legal obligation to preserve these assets for you. Can we get it back?" Elliot asked. Bryce hesitated. "We can sue, but first we need to understand where the money went. Your mother will claim she had valid reasons for the withdrawals. We need to prove she didn't." He filed a motion to freeze his mother's assets that afternoon. By evening, she'd called Elliot 38 times. He didn't answer. She left voicemails that started angry and ended desperate. The last one said simply, "Call me back or you'll regret it." The court granted a temporary freeze 2 days later. His mother's lawyer responded with a 60-page filing claiming Elliot had been abusive and manipulative, that she'd withdrawn the money to protect it from my influence, that I was a gold digger who'd seduced her son away from his family. I laughed when I read it. Then I stopped laughing when I got to page 47. She'd included screenshots of text messages, conversations I'd never had, accusations I'd never made. She'd doctored them, poorly, but enough that someone not paying attention might believe them. "She's desperate," Bryce said. "People make mistakes when they're desperate." We requested full financial disclosure. His mother's lawyer tried to block it. The judge ordered compliance within 30 days. When the documents arrived, they told a story I wasn't prepared for. The money hadn't gone to medical bills or legitimate expenses. It had funded his mother's lifestyle. A $67,000 kitchen renovation, 4 European vacations totaling $83,000, a $190,000 investment in her friend's boutique that went bankrupt within 6 months. She'd used Elliot's inheritance like a personal checking account, but the biggest single expense was a $10,000 transfer to something called Deirdre Holdings LLC. That's interesting, Bryce said, highlighting the entry. An LLC means we can request corporate records. The records arrived 3 weeks later. Deirdre Holdings LLC was a shell company owned by his mother and her sister, Elliot's aunt Deirdre. They'd purchased a vacation property in Sedona, 3 bedrooms, mountain views, a casita for guests. They'd bought it with Elliot's money and put both their names on the deed. When Elliot saw the photos on the real estate listing, something broke in him. We'd talked about buying a house, starting a family. His grandmother's trust was supposed to make that possible. Instead, his mother had stolen his future to buy herself a desert retreat. His father called that night. We hadn't spoken to him much during the divorce proceedings. He'd been staying with Vivian, trying to untangle 30 years of marriage from a woman who'd controlled every aspect of their lives. I need to tell you something, his dad said, about the trust. He explained that Elliot's grandmother had been very specific in her instructions. The money was sacred, not to be touched except for Elliot's benefit. His mother had fought the terms of the will, arguing she should have full discretion over the funds. The grandmother's lawyer had added a clause specifically preventing that. Your mother was furious, his dad continued. She felt your grandmother trusted me more than her, which was true. Your grandmother saw how your mother operated. Did you know she was stealing from it? Elliot asked. Silence. I suspected, his dad said finally. She kept talking about having plenty of money for retirement, about not worrying about the divorce settlement. I didn't know for certain until I saw her financial disclosures last month. I should have said something sooner. We hired a forensic accountant named Colette Winters. She charged $350 an hour and was worth every penny. Within 2 weeks, she'd traced every dollar of Elliot's inheritance. The story she uncovered was worse than theft. It was systematic looting. His mother had been taking money from the trust for 5 years, small amounts at first. $3,000 here for educational expenses that never happened. $8,000 there for medical costs when Elliot was perfectly healthy. She'd learned to stay under $10,000 per transaction to avoid triggering certain reporting requirements. The withdrawals increased after Elliot and I got engaged. She'd taken $43,000 during our wedding year, not to pay for the wedding. She'd paid for that separately, making sure everyone knew how generous she was being. No, that $43,000 had funded a Mediterranean cruise for her and Aunt Deirdre. She was punishing you, Colette explained, showing us the timeline. Every time you had a major life event that moved you away from her control, she took more money. The pattern was undeniable. After we bought our house, she withdrew $67,000. After Elliot got his promotion, she took $91,000. After he told her she wasn't welcome until she apologized, she'd emptied the remaining balance. Scorched earth. The preliminary hearing was set for April. His mother showed up in designer clothes and pearl earrings that probably cost more than my car. She sat behind her lawyers, Whitman and Associates, looking like a victim. When the judge asked her to explain the withdrawals, she dabbed her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. I only wanted to help my son, she said, her voice trembling. He was making poor decisions. Marrying someone I knew would hurt him. I withdrew the money to keep it safe until he came to his senses. Safe where? The judge asked. Various investments. Like the Sedona property you purchased for $10,000? Her lawyer stood quickly. My client believed she was making sound financial decisions on behalf of the trust. Using trust funds to buy property in her own name? The judge looked skeptical. That's not how fiduciary duty works, counselor. The judge ordered his mother to provide a full accounting of how she'd spent every dollar. She had 60 days. Her lawyer argued for more time. The judge denied it. We left the courthouse to find Vivian waiting by our car. Elliot's sister had been silent through most of this. She'd attended their mother's court dates but hadn't called or texted us once. Now she stood there, her eyes red. I need to talk to you, she said. We went to a coffee shop 3 blocks away. Vivian ordered Earl Grey and stared at it for 5 minutes before speaking. Mom set up a trust for me too, she said quietly. When Grandma died, mine was smaller, around $800,000. Was? I asked. She emptied it 4 years ago. Told me the stock market crashed and we'd lost everything. I believed her because I was 23 and didn't know better. I found out 2 months ago when Dad's lawyer subpoenaed her financial records. My trust was perfectly fine. She just stole it. Elliot reached across the table. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed, Vivian said. I should have checked. Should have asked questions. Instead, I just accepted it when Mom said the money was gone. Then I watched her treat you terribly for years, and I never said anything because I was afraid of ending up like you. Cut off. Excluded. She pulled out her phone and showed us photos, bank statements, investment records, email exchanges between their mother and the trust administrator. Vivian had been documenting everything. I want to help you destroy her, she said. We filed an amended complaint adding Vivian's trust to the case. Her lawyer tried to argue the statute of limitations had passed. Bryce countered that the clock didn't start until Vivian discovered the theft, which was only 2 months ago. The judge agreed. His mother's legal bills had to be astronomical. Whitman and Associates didn't come cheap. We learned later she was funding her defense by taking out loans against the Sedona property, the property she'd bought with Elliot's money. The irony wasn't lost on us. The preliminary injunction froze her assets but didn't stop her mouth. She started a whisper campaign. Told family members that Elliot was suing her because I'd manipulated him, that I was after the Prescott family money, that she'd seen this coming and tried to warn everyone. Elliot's cousin Cordelia called to let us know. Aunt Deirdre is hosting a lunch next week. Your mother's been telling everyone you're trying to steal her retirement savings, that she's innocent and this is all your wife's fault. Are you going? Elliot asked. Hell no, Cordelia said. I've seen the court documents. Everyone in the family with a working brain knows what she did, but you should know she's trying to turn people against you. 8 family members showed up to Aunt Deirdre's lunch. 6 more called to tell Elliot they weren't buying his mother's lies. The Prescott family was fracturing along fault lines that had probably existed for decades. His mother's full accounting arrived on day 59. It was 300 pages of receipts, investment statements, and explanations that basically said she'd spent Elliot's inheritance on herself, but it was fine because she'd planned to pay it back someday. Colette went through it line by line. "This is remarkable," she said. "She's essentially confessing to everything while insisting it wasn't wrong." The most damning section detailed the Sedona property. His mother claimed she'd purchased it on behalf of the family and planned to transfer it to Elliot eventually. But the deed was in her name and Aunt Deirdre's name only. No mention of Elliot, no plan for transfer, just 2 sisters who'd used stolen money to buy themselves a vacation home. "She's going to lose," Bryce said confidently. "The question now is how much we can recover." The property was worth $430,000. She'd renovated the kitchen for $22,000. New furniture for $18,000. It was mortgaged for $115,000. Even if we forced a sale, we'd get maybe $320,000 back after fees. We were still short $2 million. "What about her house?" I asked. His parents' house was worth $1.3 million. They'd owned it free and clear for 15 years. But the divorce wasn't final yet. His father was entitled to half. "If we win the lawsuit, we can put a lien on her share," Bryce explained. "She'd either have to sell or refinance to pay you." Elliot looked at me. "That's the house I grew up in. That's the house where she excluded me from family photos," I reminded him. "Where she humiliated me every chance she got. Where she planned this whole thing." He nodded slowly. "File the lien." His father's divorce lawyer was a woman named Beatrice Holt, who looked like she'd been born in a courtroom. She'd been systematically destroying his mother's claims of financial need. Turned out his mother had hidden assets all over the place. An investment account in her maiden name, a savings account at a credit union 2 towns over, a safe deposit box containing $47,000 in cash. "She was preparing for war," Beatrice said. "Probably figured if the marriage ended, she'd need money he couldn't access." The divorce trial was scheduled for June, 2 months before our trust case would be heard. His father was asking for 60% of the marital assets based on his mother's dissipation of marital funds, which included Elliot's trust, since she'd used it while married. I watched his mother's empire crumble in real time. She had to list the Sedona property for sale. No buyers in the first month. She dropped the price by $40,000. Still nothing. Meanwhile, her legal bills kept climbing. We learned through Vivian that she'd burned through $87,000 in legal fees already. Then his grandmother's lawyer appeared. Rutherford Pierce had drafted the original trust documents. He was 83 and still practicing law from a small office that smelled like old books and furniture polish. He called Elliot personally to say he'd been following the case. "Your grandmother was my client for 40 years, he said. "She knew your mother had problems, control issues, money issues. That's why she insisted on those trust terms. She made me promise I'd protect you if anything happened." "Can you testify?" Elliot asked. "I can do better than that," Rutherford said. "I have recordings." Apparently, recording client conversations wasn't unusual for estate lawyers in complicated family situations. Rutherford had 3 conversations with Elliot's grandmother where she explicitly discussed her fears about her daughter-in-law's access to money. "She's going to try to take it," his grandmother had said in a conversation from 2014. "I know she will. She thinks Elliot owes her something for raising him. Like children are investments that should pay dividends. You have to stop her, Rutherford." The recordings were admissible. His mother's lawyer tried to block them. The judge overruled the objection. We listened to Elliot's dead grandmother describe his mother's character with the kind of cold accuracy that comes from years of observation. "She excludes people she thinks are beneath her," his grandmother said. "She'll do the same to whoever Elliot marries unless that person comes from the right family. And if Elliot stands up to her, she'll punish him the only way she knows how. Money." Elliot wiped his eyes in the gallery. His grandmother had seen everything coming, had tried to protect him from beyond the grave, and his mother had stolen from him anyway. The trust trial began on August 14th. The courthouse was brutal in summer. No air conditioning in the galleries. Everyone sweating through their clothes while lawyers argued over whether a mother could steal millions from her son and claim it was love. His mother testified first. She wore cream-colored silk and diamond studs, spoke about sacrifice and worry, about watching her son make terrible choices, about feeling obligated to preserve his inheritance from a woman who was clearly manipulating him. "I see you're wearing diamond earrings," Bryce said during cross-examination. "How much did those cost?" "I don't recall. Approximately. Perhaps $10,000. "When did you purchase them?" 2 years ago. Maybe 3. Bryce pulled out a receipt. "According to this, you bought them in July of last year for $14,800, using funds withdrawn from your son's trust account 3 days earlier." The courtroom went silent. "I may have reimbursed the trust," his mother said. "With what money? You'd already emptied your personal accounts. We have your bank statements." She had no answer. Bryce spent 3 days taking her apart. Every purchase, every vacation, every dollar she'd stolen while pretending to be a concerned mother. By the end, even her own lawyer looked exhausted. Vivian testified next. She walked through her own trust's disappearance with the kind of clinical detail that made it impossible to deny what had happened. Then she dropped a bomb. "My mother told me last Christmas she'd done me a favor," Vivian said. "She said I should thank her for taking my money because it kept me from becoming spoiled and entitled like Elliot's wife." "She said this in front of witnesses?" Bryce asked. "In front of my father, my uncle, and my cousin Cordelia." All 3 testified the same day. His mother's lawyer tried to object, tried to claim bias. The judge shut him down every time. Cordelia's testimony was brief but devastating. Aunt Prescott told me in May that Elliot would regret crossing her, that she'd make sure he ended up with nothing. I thought she was just angry. I didn't know she'd already stolen everything. The defense called character witnesses, people from his mother's book club, her tennis league, women who'd known her for decades and swore she was generous and kind. Bryce didn't even bother crossing most of them. Their testimony was irrelevant compared to the banking records. The defense's star witness was Aunt Deirdre. She claimed the Sedona property was a sound investment, that her sister had planned to surprise Elliot with it someday, that everything had been done with good intentions. If it was meant as a surprise for Elliot, Bryce asked, why is your name on the deed? We wanted it to be from both of us, but not from Elliot, even though it's his money. Well, technically, Mrs. Shaw, your sister stole $10,000 from her son and used it to buy property in both your names. That's called theft. Unless you're claiming you didn't know where the money came from? Aunt Deirdre went pale. I trusted my sister. Did she tell you the money came from Elliot's trust? She said it was family money. Did you ask whose family? No answer. Bryce let that sit for a moment. Did you contribute any money to this purchase, Mrs. Shaw? Not initially, but yes or no? Did you contribute any funds to the $10,000 purchase? No. So your sister used stolen money to buy property and put your name on the deed, making you an accomplice. Aunt Deirdre's lawyer shot to his feet. She'd lawyered up the moment we'd added her to the lawsuit. Turned out accepting stolen money made her liable too. The trial lasted 11 days. Closing arguments happened on a Friday afternoon. The judge said she'd issue a ruling within 30 days. We waited. During those 30 days, his father's divorce was finalized. His mother got 35% of the marital assets. His father got the house. She got ordered to pay $43,000 in sanctions for hiding assets. Her lawyer fees for the divorce alone had topped $120,000. She was hemorrhaging money. Vivian called to say their mother had moved into a one-bedroom apartment in a complex near the highway, the kind of place with coin-operated laundry and parking spaces that barely fit a compact car. She'd gone from a $1.3 million house to a $950 a month rental. She's furious, Vivian said. Blames everyone but herself. Dad, you, me, the lawyers, the judge, reality itself. The ruling came down on September 22nd. 23 pages of findings that essentially said Elliot's mother had betrayed every fiduciary duty she'd owed. The judge ordered her to return $2.3 million plus interest. The total came to $2,547,000. She was also ordered to pay our legal fees. $94,000 so far. She had 30 days to pay or we could begin collection proceedings. That meant seizing assets, garnishing income, whatever it took to make us whole. She tried to appeal. Her lawyer withdrew 3 days later. She couldn't pay him. She hired a new lawyer who filed a motion claiming she didn't have the funds to pay the judgment. Bryce requested full financial disclosure again. The judge agreed. The new disclosure showed she had $11,000 in her bank account. The Sedona property was still for sale. That was it. Everything else was gone. Spent on lawyers and lifestyle and maintaining the appearance of wealth while her empire collapsed. She's going to declare bankruptcy, Bryce said. It's her only option. Can she discharge this debt? No. Fraud judgments survive bankruptcy. She'll owe you this money until she dies. We forced the sale of the Sedona property. It sold for $405,000 after sitting on the market for 4 months. After the mortgage and fees, we got $279,000. We put a lien on Aunt Deirdre's house. She was livid. Hired a lawyer to fight it. Lost. She ended up paying $131,000 from a home equity line of credit. Said we destroyed her credit and her retirement. I didn't lose sleep. Elliot's mother declared bankruptcy in November. The proceeding was grim. She sat in a folding chair in a government building while a trustee went through her finances. She had nothing left. No savings, no retirement accounts, no assets except an 8-year-old car worth $3,200. The judgment against her survived. She would owe us $2,137,000 for the rest of her life. The trustee set up a payment plan, $500 a month. At that rate, she'd pay it off in approximately 356 years. Can we garnish her income? I asked Bryce. She's 62, claims she can't work due to stress. She'll probably apply for disability, which she did. She moved to Florida, where Aunt Deirdre lived after selling her house. They shared a 2-bedroom condo near Clearwater. His mother worked part-time at a gift shop making $12 an hour. We got 25% of her wages, around $120 a month. We would never see most of that money. We both knew it. But the judgment was public record. Anyone Googling his mother's name would find it. Every future employer, every potential friend, every person she tried to impress with her old money stories. The truth would follow her forever. Elliot and I used what we recovered to buy a house. Nothing extravagant. A 3-bedroom craftsman with a yard and good schools nearby. We hung photos in every room. Pictures from Portugal, from our wedding, from holidays with my family. Not a single image included his mother. Vivian settled her case 6 months later. She got $340,000, which was everything we could squeeze from Aunt Deirdre's assets and their mother's bankruptcy estate. She used it to start her own business, an event planning company that specialized in weddings. I'm helping people celebrate families that actually love each other, she told us. It's therapeutic. His father remarried a year later. A woman named Patricia who taught high school English and had never heard of the Prescott family. She thought the whole story was insane. At their wedding, she pulled me aside. I need you to know something, she said. Your father-in-law has spent the last year apologizing for every time he should have defended you and didn't. He knows he failed you both. I appreciated it. But some damage doesn't heal. Elliot and I keep the court documents in a fireproof safe. All 23 pages of the judgment, the bankruptcy filing, the recorded conversations from his grandmother. We don't look at them often, but they're there. Evidence that we fought back, that we didn't let her win. His mother sends Christmas cards now, Hallmark cards with generic messages about family and forgiveness. We don't open them. They go in a box in the garage along with the other pieces of history we've left behind. Last month, Vivian called with news. Their mother had been evicted from the condo in Florida. Apparently, she'd stopped paying rent, claiming Aunt Deirdre owed her money for supporting her all these years. Aunt Deirdre had kicked her out. She's living in a weekly motel off I-75, Vivian said, working at a Dollar General now. She called me asking for money. What did you say? I told her to call her lawyer. We both laughed. It felt good. People ask sometimes if I feel guilty, if I think we went too far. If a mother deserves grace no matter what she's done. I think about that Christmas when she handed out gifts to everyone but me, 23 people watching me sit empty-handed. I think about the vacation photos that proved I wasn't family, the restaurant reservations that never included me, 3 years of systematic cruelty designed to break me down and push me out. I think about Elliot's grandmother, who'd seen this coming and tried to protect her grandson from beyond the grave, who'd known exactly what kind of person her daughter-in-law was and put safeguards in place that his mother destroyed anyway. I think about $2.3 million, about the house we should have bought, the children we planned to have, the future she stole because her son chose me over her, and I don't feel guilty at all. We had our first baby in March, a daughter. We named her Josephine after Elliot's grandmother. When we sent out birth announcements, we didn't include his mother's address. She found out through Facebook 3 weeks later, called Elliot crying, begging to meet her granddaughter. She needs her grandmother, his mother said. Family is everything. Elliot put her on speaker so I could hear. Our daughter was asleep in my arms, tiny and perfect. You're right, he said calmly. Family is everything. That's why Josephine will never meet you. I'm protecting her from someone who doesn't understand what family means. He hung up, blocked her number, changed his privacy settings so she couldn't see photos. She showed up at our house 2 days later, rang the doorbell at 7 a.m. We didn't answer. She stood on the porch for 20 minutes, crying and talking to the Ring camera about grandmother's rights and how we couldn't keep her from her grandchild. We filed for a restraining order. It was granted based on her harassment and the history of financial abuse. She was ordered to stay 500 feet away from us, our home, and our workplace. She violated it once. Showed up at the veterinary clinic where I work, tried to corner me in the parking lot. Security walked her out. We called the police. She spent a night in jail and got 30 days of probation. She hasn't come back since. Josephine is 8 months old now. She has Elliot's eyes and my stubborn chin. She'll grow up seeing photos of herself with grandparents who adore her. My parents, Patricia and Elliot's father, Vivian and her husband, people who show up, people who choose love over control. She'll never see a photo without me in it. She'll never feel excluded from her own family. She'll never watch someone steal her future and call it protection. Sometimes late at night, Elliot and I talk about what we would have done differently. If there was a moment we could have reached his mother. If love could have changed her. We always come back to the same conclusion. Some people can't be reached. Some people would rather burn everything down than admit they were wrong. Some people mistake control for love and cruelty for strength. His mother had 30 years to be different. 30 years to treat people with kindness. To include instead of exclude. To give instead of take. She made her choices. We made ours. Last week, we got a letter from her bankruptcy trustee. After 3 years of $120 monthly payments, she'd paid $4,320 toward a $2.1 million debt. The trustee wanted to know if we'd accept a settlement. $25,000 to close the judgment. We discussed it over coffee while Josephine played with blocks on the floor. It's not about the money anymore, Elliot said. It never was. I agreed. We declined the offer. The judgment stays on the books. The monthly payments continue. $120 at a time. The mathematical impossibility of ever making us whole. But the point was never really about getting paid back. The point was the public record, the proof, the consequence. The point was making sure everyone knew what she'd done. 3 years ago, his mother said there wasn't room for me in the vacation photos. Today, there's no room for her in our lives. Not at holidays, not at birthdays, not in the story we're building with our daughter. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's building something beautiful with the pieces of what they tried to destroy. It's living well. It's choosing peace over proving points. It's protecting the next generation from the poison that infected the last one. We'll never get back what she stole. The money, the years, the relationship that could have existed if she'd chosen differently. But we got something better. We got free. And she got exactly what she deserved. Not from karma or cosmic justice, but from the consequences of her own choices. From a legal system that recognized theft even when it came wrapped in maternal love. From a family that finally saw her clearly and chose differently. She's 65 now, living in a motel, working retail, paying $120 a month toward a debt she'll never clear. She lost her marriage, her home, her children, her granddaughter, her reputation. She did this to herself. Every exclusion, every cruelty, every dollar stolen. She built this ending one choice at a time, and we built ours too. One boundary at a time, one document filed. One day of refusing to accept her version of family. People still ask if we'll ever reconcile, if time will heal this, if Josephine deserves a chance to know her grandmother. I look at my daughter, at the life we're giving her, the love, the security, the knowledge that she matters, that she belongs, that her family would never exclude her from a photo or steal her future or mistake cruelty for strength. And I know we made the right choice. Some doors, once closed, should stay that way. Some people, once seen clearly, should be kept at a distance. Some wounds, once inflicted, can't be healed with time or apologies or grandmother cards sent to addresses she's not supposed to have. His mother made sure there wasn't room for me in the vacation photos. We made sure there wasn't room for her in our daughter's life, in our peace. In the future, we're building from the ashes of what she tried to take. She wanted control, she got consequences, and we got free. In the end, that's worth more than $2.3 million. That's worth everything.